February 9th, calling the select board to order. First item on the agenda is consider additions or adjustments to the agenda. Are there any?
I have one relative to the articles for town meeting, a request to discuss lunch, but specifically lunch for election workers during town meetings.
That is a town meeting planning question, but sure. Yeah, we'll do a 4A.
Lunch for election workers. Don't we, I usually provide pizzas for the whole town.
Right?
During lunch, they are working the most because everyone votes during lunch. So
I
they
understand, so we'll just make sure they have some pizza.
that's my request.
We'll talk about it during 4A, 4B.
Okay.
Any other additions or adjustments to the agenda?
I just have something, but maybe just under public comment for you guys to consider.
Okay, we'll do it under public comment, which is our next item. What's your public comment?
It's regarding the mailings and the property information forms.
Mm-hmm.
So the timeline for the grand list, I wrote all this down, so I'm just gonna read what I wrote. The timeline for the grand list and the opportunity to give information and correct the misinterpretations should be considered when considering the property information forms. The current statewide timeline for the grand list consists of filing homesteads and tax returns from January to April to be timely, performing valuations as of April 1st, holding change hearings, and then lodging the grand list in the spring. It's a common misconception that people can grieve their tax bills, and mailing information reports with the tax bills may contribute to the belief of this misconception. The property information form can also contain proposed hearing dates and homestead due dates to assist with timely filing. So on those forms, I can say when the upcoming change of appraisal hearings are and when to file your homesteads. The dog information forms will also want to be considered with the mailings. Dog licenses are due April 1st, and sending the form out prior to the due date may help with registration. The rabies clinics dates can also be incorporated when creating the dog information forms. Marla had suggested adding a note for landlords to forward to tenants, which I think is listed as ACO on these forms. I've contacted Repro to inquire of the cost to print and mail the forms, and they let us know that the total cost would be approximately $1,592, whereas if we did it in-house, it'd be approximately $1,960. So having them outsourced would be a $367 savings. That also included mailing them to the town of Johnson, so we could edit those out and take out unnecessary mailings, so that'd be even more savings. I'm considering contacting WLVB, the radio station, and to ask them if I could go on air and just let people know what's happening with the inspections on the processes and just kind of give a public comment or announcement through that. And the only other thing is a reminder to please decide if we should offer Mimi her requested weight position. And that's all my public comment.
Okay. Thank you. Those are both budget questions to me, other than the WLVB thing. Does anybody have an issue with information going out there on the radio?
Absolutely not. And since Justin, you gonna stay on or are you getting off?
I was going to get off unless there's some need for me.
Can I ask him a question before we, so I'm assuming from the tenor of your comments that you're recommending that we send these out and not include them in another mailing, such as a tax bill mailing.
That is correct. My recommendation is to send out the property information forms and the dog forms in January, no later than February, for requests to submit by March 15th or April 1st to follow the timelines.
Rosemary, do we have any mailings that need to go out or?
No.
Okay.
Any further questions? Thank you, Justin. We don't have a question about, we don't have an answer about the Mimi question, or advertising, but we'll be talking about it later.
Okay.
And we can have Tom let you know.
Sounds good to me.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good
Thank you.
No further public comment. All right, let's get in the weeds. Budget update.
So, as you guys saw, the questions from Evan and Duncan. All of those were included in the most recent, so I just made the changes. And I was on the conservative end, so anything that suggested lowering revenue, I lowered revenue, anything that suggested increasing expenses, I increased expenses, so that way it was like worst case scenario. And then I went through and made all the corrections, and then any change that I did not make, is in pink that left a question. And the other thing is, Rosemary and I started to work on the half pipe cash on hand transfer. All the skate park money that was set aside for the half pipe was not seen in the. Rosemary actually asked me about that. It was shown as only 16,000 as opposed to 41,000. And so that brought 20,000 additional dollars into revenue from our cash on hand. It's going to clean out the skate park reserve, but we knew that was going to happen. And so just by doing that offset of 20,000 really made a huge impact in our percentage.
So where's that reflected as being brought in?
I think it's line 63,
50 or 60?
60.
Can we,
Shown here in red.
yeah, it's 63.
It's and it's in red because I just want to sit down with Rosemary and just make sure it's correct. Like it seems like it's correct, but just we literally did that at like 4 o'clock, so it would be best to.
And that is gonna be under estimated year end as
Correct.
opposed to FY 26.
Correct, so it shows the offset and the cash on hand only.
So I'm recommending that we kind of take this section by section from the top down instead of jumping around a little bit. That was quite a change, so I get the.
That's like the
question, but it's
highlight,
part of your highlight.
the differences between the last budget, really.
Section 1 is gonna be tax related revenue. Are we confident that we can get $16,500 in interest is my question. Which is our late tax penalty, late tax penalty revenue. You
You're
think
good with that?
that's a pretty good number?
Okay.
It'd probably be significantly
Gotta
higher
be more, but
because of the threat of tax sale. That's probably gonna be 3 or 4 times higher, but conservative. I mean, once those letters go out for tax sale, you're gonna see a lot of that penalty paid off.
Does anybody else have any questions in the tax related revenue side? That's the one I sent out earlier.
Okay.
If there's none, we could always come back. Licenses and fines. One thing that I had suggested changing. Where is it?
Oh, you increased, you suggested
I
line,
suggested increasing.
dog licenses.
Maybe you think I'm gonna license 50 more dogs?
Well, and part of my thinking there was tied to if we do the mailing, if there's that many more people that know. I don't know, Rosemary. If you don't think that's a good idea, we'll leave it right at 14.
Yeah, that's an excellent example of where you raised revenue, but I left it low, conservative. Just everything was on the conservative end for worst case scenario.
Because we only get $4 a dog, so,
My goodness. Seriously?
yeah, that's all we get.
I think that's a bargain.
I think you should raise it up.
But
As best we can,
Isn't that set by the state? Yeah,
unless you have neutering programs, which can cost you money.
right.
That's our rabies programs.
They keep it low so people will register their dogs.
The state don't mind raising their rates.
Oh, no, not at all.
They just raise it $2.
We already given out dog licenses already.
We have not.
They're not due till April.
So
Good, I
the
wanna get in early.
1,400 is actually $600 lower than the budget from
Last year.
last year. But it's $100, well, $50 higher than what we actually took in 24. Do you think we'll take in the same amount in 24 as in 25?
Year before that was 1,900.
So it's small potatoes, but should we go with 1350 and 1350? Estimated year end and 26 budget.
It's small potatoes. I'm comfortable with lowering estimated year end to 1350. How's the rest of the board feel? And then budget 1350 on revenue this year.
What do you think, Rosemary?
It's a $50 change, which is $10 a barrel. Or is it?
Chicken
12.
feed.
12.5.
It is chicken feed, yeah.
Right, but you know, we're trying to be accurate. We owe it, I believe.
I just want a big thank you for the interest income boost. And I want us to get more, because I noticed Duncan gave me some strokes.
I gave you some credit.
Some strokes.
You
I
better
would,
take that when you get it.
yeah, I know. Well, I've only got a few more meetings, but I
You can take
do
ARPA
think,
money.
I do think that we should be putting more in to higher interest. I mean, I think we should take a close look. Are you listening to me, Thomas?
Absolutely.
I know Rosemary's conservative, but I think we can find more interest income in a way that is all FDI insured and better than the 0.0 whatever. the unit
And that's
is.
the line 41 item, right? So we're
Yes,
jumping
that's what I'm
okay.
looking at.
No, you're,
It's interesting,
Yeah, I
Rosemary just mentioned
yeah.
ARPA
Interest
money.
on tax.
yeah.
I talked to a town recently that they used ARPA money to pay for their website.
So we're jumping a little bit, but we can talk about ARPA money if
So we're gonna change 1,400 to 1,350.
Yep. Tom has that already done.
Yep.
Are there any questions in the state and federal? We had Tom had proposed some different numbers.
These were Rosemary actually does those, but yeah, we had
Charlie, you can
Rosemary
take that
had
because I
1.5.
can't read it anyway.
I
I
Yeah.
forgot my stupid glasses.
They were just like rounded up.
There you
Yeah.
go. And you don't have to stand on my shoulder.
If everybody is comfortable with that,
I have a question on line. What is it, 32?
the A&R, the A&R pilot payment, I think that would be helpful for Duncan and myself.
Yeah.
I don't know about everybody else.
I don't know where they are.
You have a question on the A&R pilot payment?
I do in terms of the 26 budget. So we've got 99, 799.
No, that's the
That's a highway.
That's the
Oh, that's
state,
state highway.
state grant for
Okay, all
highway.
right, sorry.
And I had asked a question in mine that says, what projects are we expecting grants for? Because that seemed like a $70,000 dive in revenue.
So,
It's really money in, money out, correct?
yeah, grants are an interesting thing. If Jason does the work and we use our labor and trucks to, instead of contractors, for our match portion, we can actually use it as a revenue source. Because we've already budgeted that time, you know, if they don't use overtime. But, otherwise it's money in, money out, and you're just covering the match portion. The dive is, last year during the budget, I don't know, there was a long discussion about whether we put expected grants in versus bird in the hand. And so the only birds in the hand right now add up to 29,100. There will likely be far more, but that's all we got so far.
You can have that. Anybody else want?
Is that up?
I forgot my glasses.
I guess they don't
I
call
can't
it.
see a thing.
Can you
I
read
can
that?
hardly even read. I can't hardly read
Reading
that.
glasses?
You wanna bring a chair up here?
No, I don't want to sit.
Yeah, Marlo will have to find
Oh,
something.
man.
She's.
What was your question, Duncan?
You want me to print you a bigger one?
Is that a better, what used to be known as Better Back Roads grants?
That I think is,
The 20.
I think it's a combination of better roads and grants and aids. There is a chance that that might actually go down because Jason was so proactive and did his FY 25 Better Roads Grant, next year's grant this fall. So depending on when that money comes in, we might get it like in May versus next year, but it just means our cash on hand is gonna go up before the end of the year. So it's either gonna show us cash on hand or show us revenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see, Tom, that you've lowered the, just looking at the A&R pilot, have you lowered all the pilot just out of principle? Because of CLA?
We took the 68% of the grant of. We took the new CLA and used, or I did this and made that 421 number as a calculation based on.
Yeah, I understand
I
that.
did
And you
not
did
do-
the same thing with A&R lands also.
Different formula.
It's a-
Different
yeah,
formula,
it's a
but you
different
still
pot of
dropped
money.
it $1,800.
That was, yep. It's actually,
No, not necessarily. He's budgeting what we budgeted in 25. We received more than we budgeted.
we
Okay,
received the same in 24 and 25. I don't know, if the board wants to go up to that, we can, or we can. But conservative is always better because then it means more.
yep, I'm fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, my theory is you never know what the state's gonna do from year to year.
like revenue,
It's tough.
yeah.
Yeah,
Fine.
they could lower it.
Thank you. Roads just hit.
Are we good with the state federal revenue?
Mhm.
Next section is other revenue. A change on this from earlier today was the interest on investments, which Mark had brought up earlier. Previously, it was $10,000. Now it's showing as 15, and we think that's
I did that
reasonable
without
and we can
talking to
hit.
Yeah, that's
Rosemary.
probably good.
You good with that, Rosemary?
I just took where we're at now at 50% through the year and then multiplied it to 17,000.
And then rounded down, kind of. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
This is a formatting question, but we have not received overrun stone income for years.
we'll take it out.
And what
I
about,
said in 24.
we did? No, I guess we did, so you can't take it out. No, you can't take it out, sorry about that.
Well, I
How
had
about lease land? Can we take that one out?
I had put questions on lease land and Lamoille County Emergency
Emergency.
Fund about questioning if they could be removed.
Get rid of
That's more of like a kind of housekeeping, I think, makes it cleaner for the voters.
Yes, I mean, there's never anything goes into those, so.
You can always hide them. You don't have to necessarily take them out.
Huh?
You know, hide the line?
I don't know anything about that.
Mm.
Yeah, you do. You did it on the salary sheet.
That's.
I don't,
My next
I don't like
question
that word.
was, and if
if
we're passing any lines you have questions on, please
Mhm.
speak up. My next question was, why are we dropping miscellaneous revenue to 0? In our current budget, we always seem to receive some amount of money every year.
That other revenue on the bottom.
Miscellaneous revenue, line number 45. We scrubbed it to 0. It's being proposed right now. It's being scrubbed to 0. My recommendation, again, it's bigger potatoes than Duncan was talking, but
It's still up.
I'm proposing $400 in revenue there. It overshoots some years and underperforms others. So is the board comfortable with that?
Sure.
What do we typically get for miscellaneous revenue? Whatever you don't know, you don't know where to put it, so you put it
Yeah,
there.
put it there.
Yeah.
It's usually small.
$723.20, $111. So
Yeah.
that's why I changed that to 0. Because it's just I hate not having a space for something or for myself, you know.
Dinner for one of the restaurants, so.
Yeah, we've had this conversation before. I know you want to get rid of all miscellaneous lines, but
I like to
Um,
have them, but I don't like to budget them.
what's the board want to do? Do we want to budget a little bit of revenue or not? With that specific cell?
I don't think so. I'm no revenue guy.
Because every once in a while,
I worry.
we get $50 from a person who did some. Is paying back for restitution from property damage from the town.
Can we throw $100 at it? Just to have something in there?
Oh, why not?
I'm complacent with that.
Yep, $100 it is.
$100, Tom. All right, beauty.
I feel rich.
I know, right?
If you don't get it, let me know next year. I'll give you $100.
Okay.
It's chump change for Mark.
Chunk change.
The next line, yeah, these two don't line up perfectly, but
Oh, the two,
and the two sheets don't.
because we added a skate park thing.
So the next line I was proposing might be removed is the Cotting Hollow FEMA project. Just a housekeeping thing, maybe hide it.
It's been done a long time ago.
Mhm. I think I've inactivated it in memory
It's still showing up.
on
Yeah.
here, yeah.
What is it?
We could just delete the entire line.
And
Is it?
the miscellaneous grants, we don't have anything bird in hand that we know of. Revenue. Next page is the remainder of this section.
Can I go back to line 46?
Yeah,
Projects, event celebrations. Revenue, we don't anticipate bringing in any revenue for projects, celebrations.
I don't even know what.
It's just gonna be an expense.
That's usually how I see it.
That's like Christmas parties and things, or?
no, we're talking revenue.
You remember
I
the
know,
parade
just-
that, that they had a long time ago?
Oh, yeah. the
That I played the
millennials.
backpack set?
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be a project.
that was Sharon and I, Sharon Burns
Yeah,
and I. put
Sharon
that
Burns,
on.
yeah.
And that brought in revenue?
Huh?
That brought in revenue?
Well, I don't know, did it bring it?
Donna, you're here.
It probably didn't bring in revenue.
Thought it would.
We actually came
So
to
it
the
came
select
here,
board and
but
got
it's
$8,000
a question
to
of
pay
where
the
it's
Shriners, so it was a net loss.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, it's always an expense, but not so much a revenue.
Shriners cost $8,000.
I'm,
Donna, do you want this?
2,000.
all right, we're getting sidetracked.
All those little.
I don't see in the last few years where we've actually brought any actuals in,
Yeah, probably not.
so. I'm okay with it. Next item up. For myself anyways. Where is that?
Yes.
So, paving reserve. This question's gonna come back up in the following section.
What line are you on, Evan?
Line 62,
This comes in, this
Yeah.
is gonna be the amount of money that comes.
from your meeting today, right?
That's right, so. They did not give us a number, but Jason got price per 100,000 or per 1,000 feet. And right now, we're looking at a $300,000 project, with 175,000 of state grant, should put us at $125,000 we would need to complete the paving. Which is, so I think I'm now gonna go back to Jason and say, find more paving, like, let's get that up to 475,000. So that way we're spending $300,000 of our own money out of reserves, plus we're spending 175 of state. But
Can you make that cell red
absolutely,
so that we know we need to bring in revenue? I don't wanna pave for paving's sake. I understand the thought process behind the 4-year rotation, but. 4 years down the road, we might be staring down the barrel of hogback, which is gonna be $1 million project. And just blowing 100,000 so that we made sure we paved to the maximum this year is not gonna do that select board any
Yeah.
favors.
I
And that-
agree with that 100%, Evan.
So if Jason believes the project's around X and that's what he believes the town needs. I personally, not speaking for the select board, I personally believe that's what we budget for. I don't want to pressure him into paving just to hit. Make sure you spend $500,000.
Is
You know.
that because otherwise we leave money on the table, state money?
No, we have extra money in our reserve fund.
Yeah, and so
Well,
I
we
think,
can spend that on something else.
That's a good thing.
No, it'd be the paving reserve. Fund.
yeah,
Still
so
a good thing.
right now, we're putting away $90,000 a year, right, or. That's what,
110.
that's what it shows 90, but say it's 110, right? That's 440,000 over 4 years to match the grant cycle, plus an additional 175. There is an efficiency of doing a lot of the sections of town at once, because we're not paying for transportation. We're not paying for the setup and site fees of having a pipe there, and you get volume discount by buying more asphalt and doing bigger
You're on
projects.
camera.
So by having him do larger sections of town at once, we're getting more paving for our buck. And so if we're doing 110,000 a year, that's 440,000 on a 4-year cycle, plus 175,000 from the state, puts us at, what is that, 615,000? I don't know, but
I totally understand everything you're saying.
so, but that, if we can plan on, and then what he's gonna do is he's gonna take, because he didn't have those numbers before, is he's gonna start his paving plan based on that rotation. Whatever you guys decide to save annually that's his target to create his 4-year paving plan. He just wanted to do those 2 roads because they're the ones that he wants to do. But if we're saving more than that, then we could do that. And now we don't pave the same way that you don't pave all the hogback anymore. That's not the way you do it anymore. Now you do the worst first, and you just where it's good, where the paving is in perfect shape, you might just do a shim. And you might only do 1,500 feet. Where it needs to get rebuilt, you might do a total reclaim and do 4 inches of base and top coat. And then where the pavement is starting to break up, but the base is good, you just do a 2-inch mill. And so, but you do it by section now instead of by whole road, and and then if he plans all these sections based on that 610,000. Now he can build his 4-year plan out, say, okay, in 4 years, this is what we're gonna do. And every year he's coming to you to say, look, this next 4-year project is now 630,000 because of inflation. We need to add 5,000 a year to that reserve. And so now it becomes an annual conversation about what to add to the reserve fund, and less of a conversation about what roads need to be paved. Because that's what you've just given him the authority to find the worst first and do it. And take, because pretty soon we're getting closer and closer to getting caught up. Now we're gonna do only 2-inch mill and shim, which is gonna be a lot cheaper. It's 27,000 per 1,000 feet versus rebuilds, which is 58,000 per 1,000.
I can't see them.
You just said something that I just can't agree with. We're getting closer and closer to getting caught up. We're never gonna get caught. At 110,000, and prove me wrong. Develop a plan. Come up with a plan, a paving plan. And show me that that we're wasting money at 110,000.
I never said we're wasting money. But what we needed were those price per 1,000 feet.
I don't agree. I think what we need is a budget figure to put in the budget, and then he paves what he can based on what we have available in the budget and the reserve fund.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but now he knows what to find. If he's doing 110,000, that's great. So now he's gonna go out and find $600,000. He's gonna say, okay, I now know because of this, that I know it costs this much to do 1,000 feet. He's gonna try to find 8,000 feet to pave. And based on those worst first, he's gonna know whether it's 58,000.
But your
47,000.
assumption is that we do it on a 4-year cycle because that's when we get the
We
175,000
get the most bang
for
for our buck.
class 2 paving.
Correct.
And I'm not 100% sure that I agree with a 4-year cycle. Because number one, the class 2 paving, you gotta have a class 2 road to
Absolutely.
pave
And you only need
to
to,
begin with,
that's right.
to get the class 2 money.
You need to pave $225,000 worth of class 2 roads with every 4-year cycle.
Yeah.
That's right.
So which class 2 road is planned for this upcoming year?
I don't know, this is part of the conversation Jason and I need to have.
Well,
Okay.
Wilson is a class two.
I know
but
Wilson's
it
a
ain't,
class two, but
it's not gonna, it's not gonna be $225,000, I don't think.
No, it's not. It blew my mind how cheap it was. Wilson's gonna cost us probably $100,000. Which is. Insane, but like, I think. We did not realize how cheap it was till he came back with those numbers. We
Yeah.
thought it was gonna be exorbitant.
So I guess my point is, I think we need a paving plan.
It's on everybody's radar and a priority.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, and so, like, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think we absolutely have to have a paving plan to do the budget. I think we can put a number in the budget and then come back with a paving plan in, you know, a specific project.
Can you say that one more time for me?
Yeah.
I think what I'm recommending is we put a number in the budget for paving this year, and my recommendation is 110,000, because I don't think at 110,000, we haven't even kept up with the cost of the increase in
Don't go down there, Tom.
paving
We'll get to it.
per ton.
All right. Correct.
You know, when I first started, it was $35 a ton to pave, $32 a ton to pave. Now it's it's probably over $100 a ton now to pave. I don't know.
Probably.
So, and we went from maybe $75,000 up to $110,000 for the same amount of roads.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're gaining on it.
I agree with you on the expense side. For tonight's conversation, can we leave the revenue side red and at least plan on bringing in revenue and making the expense for the project that we think we're gonna do? I still putting the 110 in reserve.
Yeah,
I'm just using revenue to offset the project projections.
yeah, and I guess it kind of depends on what we do. If we use the 110 that's in the current year, we haven't spent any money out of the current year. And we have 116 in cash on hand for reserve.
It's 238,000.
So, yeah, I mean, so we have a fair chunk of change already.
We do. I said this a while back. I always envisioned it personally, kind of like capital equipment. We show revenue, we show expense into reserve, we show money coming out of reserve in revenue for the project. It's just accounting, an accounting difference.
As long as the expense and the revenue match, it doesn't matter what number.
That's money in, money out.
Yeah.
That's like the capital highway equipment. We're budgeting to put into the revenue.
Yep.
If it gets spent out of the budget, it doesn't go in the revenue. That's a minute change to me.
So a simple way to do it would be to budget 110 for paving this year. And bring in 110 plus 116 from revenue.
It'd be 226 and show that the project is gonna cost
And
226
show that the project is
and we're done.
226, and we're done. That'd be a
Didn't we
simple.
talk
way to do
about
it.
that a little bit the other night? The 110,000.
We did. We'll get to that 110. The box is red. Do you understand the conversation? And
Is Katie Wynn a class 2?
no,
Well,
we have 7 class 2 roads.
Clay Hill, Plot, Wilson, Railroad,
Yeah. Hogback,
Hogback.
mine.
Is mine
mine's not paved.
It's still a class 2 road. Plot road's not paved.
Well, it used to be.
a lot of it's not.
The majority of it is
The
not.
majority of it is not.
And mine road to the corner of where it hits class 4 is class 2.
The total project is looking like what he thought he was gonna do. It was 300, it's about 300,000. Of that, 100,000 is class 2, which would mean it would cost 200,000 plus our match of 80%, so 20,000, so we could put 220 out of the paving reserve in here. Total project expense,
220.
and then the addition to the addition to the fund, that pavement contribution is 110. So that's,
Yep.
and then I would add an additional revenue line and do total project cost 300,000 an expense, and then a second revenue that's
Well,
state grants, and then you
I
make
mean,
state
your
grants
class
match
2
that.
paving grant could come in under state grants, highway.
Add
80,000.
80,000 there, exactly. You know, so, and that way it's still money in, money out, but it's shown actual, it's the actual money that's.
So make it red up top or whatever.
Yeah.
And exactly how you just described it makes sense. We're gonna get 80,000 from the state. We're gonna take 220,000 out of our reserve. Project's gonna be 300,000. We're gonna show 220 coming out, 220 being spent, and we'll show one into the reserve. Just make them red, and you understand how we want to see it. Nobody's objecting to me.
I think that works.
Okay.
Yep.
So you can fix that. Do we have any other questions on that revenue section? You have the skate park reserves coming in, and you have that highlighted, you know that needs to be adjusted. Or you said you were gonna check with
It
Rose.
just needs to be confirmed that that's the actual dollar amount.
That's fine.
The 35,000.
Yeah.
And Casey should understand what's going on there, right? After
Sure.
2 years of talking about it. So the
That's
25 on recreation, sorry, the 25 on recreation reserve is the offset to the,
Skate,
okay.
That's the
And-
amount we got from community.
I added a new line, so I said 63 in the email, but it's now 64.
Yeah, okay.
But you got it.
Are we ready to move on to library revenue?
Yeah.
There's not much here. I had a question. Where is it? I mean, could encouragement be given to try to increase donations from $200?
Absolutely.
Donations, fines and sales?
Yep.
I'm not necessarily proposing we increase that revenue. I'm just,
Make that.
could a capital funding campaign happen or something? Do they need some support from the select board to increase donations? Like a front porch forum blast or something?
Yeah, I'd love to see him
Um,
try and raise some additional revenue.
No, that's actually, I think right now with the library move, it's an awesome time. You could probably bring in thousands.
are you comfortable having that conversation?
Totally,
Super
easy.
I'm not throwing a target at them. I'm asking what they can do and what I can do to help.
Maybe they could do a sponsor a brick program or something.
Yeah.
Oh, they painted, dude, that would be
If-
so
If
fun.
they do a
Yeah.
sponsor a brick, I'll buy one.
There you go.
Or a, something to do with the moving day event.
Yeah, yeah. Sponsor an
Sponsor a wheel on the.
sponsor a bagpipe.
You made the moving days.
Evan is willing,
Whatever.
you will have that conversation with them. So,
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, you had a couple of items that you were thinking we should change in the library.
not on the revenue side.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry.
Our next item is rec committee revenue. If nobody has anything else for library revenue. I have a lot of questions, and what I'm going to propose here is that Tom needs to go work with Isabel on rec. Because revenue for programs does not match expense for programs, and we were clear from day one. What's a line that's zeroed out? Baseball zeroed out, zero income, but we're expecting to spend $1,000. We budgeted $1,500 for revenue last year. Are we not doing baseball in 26?
We haven't got any baseball money yet for 25,
Yeah,
not till spring.
and budget.
Are we planning zero money for all of 26? That would mean
No,
done
you
with the
got zero.
baseball program.
Yeah, and I think my question is, does it go through the outside league? It goes through
No,
us.
who else?
Okay.
So I personally there's 4 lines that were zeroed out that I don't understand why, but the general comment that I have is that I believe rec program revenue for programs should equal expense.
So I agree with you 100%. And then rather than leave it open ending, I think having like clear direction on each item would be helpful. And then also,
So you want me to go through each program revenue and expense and highlight them? I can do that. I don't want to bog the board down.
great. No, I think, and then like bring Isabel into the conversation. So if the three of us get on the phone and just talk about it, it would be a lot easier rather than having a mediator in the middle, you know? I
can do it right now, but.
Okay.
Sure,
mean-
if you want me to go through rec revenue and expense and highlight the ones that don't match up, I will.
her target is to have all new programs be break even. And I think, so what I'm hearing is that her target should also be all existing programs also be break even.
Is there any reason not to?
I'm just trying to understand your request.
Yes, all existing programs. If we're expecting to spend $1,000 on baseball for jerseys and what have you, baseballs, baseball bats, whatever. My expectation is that the fees for playing baseball will cover $1,000.
Okay, I mean, that's the clarity I need.
Does any of the board
That's
disagree
simple.
with that?
It's simple.
Well, I just think recreation is important to fund, and if it costs the town money, we spend it.
It does in the form of $5,000 for field maintenance, and
Yeah.
what are we spending on a rec coordinator? 40 some odd $1,000. The town
If
is
we
stepping
need-
up.
If we need a few $1,000s more, I say we spend it. I just disagree with you there.
Okay, well, there's a disagreement.
But that's okay.
General feeling of the board,
Should
I-
cover expense.
Peter?
I don't feel like it always needs to cover expenses, but. At least on paper anyway.
Duncan? I'm just looking for a general consensus
My
here.
general preference would be to have the program expense equal the program revenue, understanding that there are numerous other things that we are funding, like the salaries and the upkeep of the fields and stuff like that. But in terms of the actual programs, it seems to me that it is reasonable to have them
That's all we're asking,
covered.
is for it to carry weight. So I guess that's a consensus of the board, Tom. And maybe this is another great one for donations and fundraisers.
I like that one.
Yeah, there's nothing in there right now.
Is there anything more that the select board would like to cover on rec? Okay. Next item up is the next section is the skate park and bike track. Are there any comments there? I have one, but it has nothing to do with our budget. Column AH needs to start lining up. I highlighted the cell that needs to be deleted to move them up. Right? It just needs to line up. I get that it's a pain. With additional lines.
Are we gonna even show that though in the town report budget? Because it would be nice to have that line up for
Do we show that, Rosemary?
our purposes.
So what?
This column.
The 23 actual.
23 actuals, will that be shown in the town report budget? Or will it be just 24 budget actuals? Yeah, I don't think 23 is gonna show up.
I still think it should line up. It's not a big deal. Like
No,
I
it
said,
would be nice to have it lined
one
up.
question and it's a column question, not necessarily a skate park question. Do you have something, Peter?
Simple enough, right? Just move the.
You actually have to
Well,
print out the budget status report for 23 and make sure, you have the numbers that come off of it, you have to make sure those are the actual numbers. And then 2, you have to make sure the name of the account, because we've been adding and changing accounts, so you can't,
Mhm.
you have to make sure that it actually lands where it lands.
it's not an easy task because
easy.
we're down one cell here, but as you
Mhm.
go farther down, we're 5 cells.
Okay.
But that's a Nemrick software thing that really is out of. Are we ready to go over Historic Society revenue? Wow, there's a lot of. Does board members have any questions about Historic Society revenue?
Well, I just kind of wondered how they were gonna go from donations and general operations to a revenue of 1,500, but
I have the answer.
yeah.
Mark's cutting a check.
Well, you worked with them on that budget, right? And that's what they came up with?
That's what they shot back and
I mean,
Is that their pie sales?
no, in 2024, their actual donations were $2,800. It's a goal that they've hit in the past.
it's doubled.
I-
And
I think that that's a good target, and I'm willing to encourage it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm willing to do a Facebook post on the town if
Yeah,
the
okay.
select board so chooses to.
Mark, their pie sales is TNL revenue line 115.
Okay. That's very weather dependent.
It is. Are there any other questions on Historic Society revenue? Tuesday Night Live revenue? General comment. I'm not sure who needs to have the conversation, but they're planning more expense than they're showing for revenue. And
Rosemary and I talked about that because their revenue is based on the previous year's donation, is that right?
Mhm.
Their expense is based on the previous year's donations, so like if you. And so that. It comes out of reserves to match the expense, is that correct?
I'm confused.
All their money is collected before June 30th. But their program is not until after July.
Mhm. So it's shifting money, but that would mean that they're planning on spending all the money in 26 that they made in 25, correct?
Mhm.
Which is fine. Why is the estimated final for 25 900 and, or no, I guess it'd be 25. So they're planning on spending the 19.
You're looking at revenue right now.
I am.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It's confusing to me why revenue and expense don't line up.
There was a reason that I talked to Rosemary about this, because I also had no idea.
And they still got, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 they haven't spent for last year.
And the answer is in the. In your cash on hand, isn't it?
Mhm.
Aren't they just the cash in, cash out thing, with no effect on?
They certainly are, so it'd be easy to show them as revenue and expense at the same.
You know,
That would
maybe
be
what
my
we should do
guess.
is, would you? How could we show? The cash on hand, you know, like we do paving now or capital equipment, we have. Total project costs. Amount from revenue. From the previous years, or a way to add a line to show that? So that way it would matter, that's how you would show that. It was.
That's a general comment. We don't need to bog the board down. I might have to call you, Rosemary, to get to explain it to me a little bit more. I don't need to bog the board down on my problems. So currently, if we're moving down a little bit, you're proposing a very steep number to reduce taxes. But that all ties in down low.
That'll
And
change,
that's a formula, right?
That
Yeah,
should be
That
low.
176 is,
no matter what you do, it's gonna change, literally all I did is I put money into other accounts, and whatever's left is the amount to reduce tax.
right.
Yeah,
So that money.
Yeah.
If we change the amounts.
I get it.
Yeah,
Is everybody ready to move on to general government?
Yep.
Expense side,
That $50.
For joy.
it looks like you reduced. Animal control services and health officer
yeah, I made them
salaries.
match your suggestions.
The other thing that came up a couple of times, it looks like you have changed is the auditor salary.
I took it out entirely. I had it at 1,700, I think. I
Mhm.
took it out entirely because if we vote to remove them, there's no salary.
Yeah, which I suppose I was thinking about that. And I'm the one that made the comment.
He
Hey.
matched it, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm right here with a note that says, my thought is if we don't have auditors, why are we paying
Yeah.
them?
well, and that's right, but what
What happens
happens?
if it gets voted down?
What happens if it gets voted down and or somebody runs and gets
Write-in campaign?
write-in 25 write-in votes?
I
Then all of
think,
a sudden we've got an auditor and enough funds.
I think it's $1,700. It's probably not the end of the world. The reality of having 20, I mean, we'll know on the 16th, right? If the reality of 25 write-ins is impossible. I mean, it's not impossible.
No.
it's possible.
Now, if somebody actually decides at the last minute they want to run and they stand outside and say, will you write me in?
Yeah, I guess.
It's been
That
known
makes
to
a big
happen.
difference.
The board
Just
needs,
ask Mike.
It's really
Been known to happen.
For $1,700.
the
Yeah.
board needs to decide if we want to roll the dice on that one.
I can roll the dice on that one.
And leave it in there.
No, and take it out.
I leave it in there.
I'd take it out.
I'm willing to play chances.
I'm willing to take it out. I
Alright.
advocated that we remove it, so I guess I should stick with that.
Voting against your own motion.
Doesn't hurt me.
What do you think, Roots? Are we good in there?
Your estimated final for CED S salaries came out as well, changed that a little bit. Social Security, why is that red?
I think, in the formula for estimated salaries of last year's estimated salaries, it looks artificially high.
So I'll hear you, but you have the budget of 2025 as red. We cannot change that number.
No, that's why it's red for me. I mean, it's been red
Okay.
actually for weeks. I
Just
don't,
want to make sure it doesn't change.
no, it's not gonna, I think we're gonna have, and if you look right now, we're at 50% of the year and we're at 11, this number really should be like 23,000 or 22,500, which is because it's odd to have we should have had a much larger increase. Yeah, it's 25,000 for 26. 25 was 24,001. But that was, my flags went off to say that's not, we added 2 people. We added Isabel and we added Randall to estimated salaries, the sheet, and that should have brought that number higher. And so I flagged it as red, saying something's wrong with last year's number. And I think there is, and I think our estimated, I think we're gonna be $1,000 high. You know, we're budgeting $1,000 more for social security and retirement than our social security than it should be. But it's a good thing. It means that it's conservative and we'll land well. But that's a note for me to say something's not right.
Can you look into that?
Yeah.
Tell us what's not right.
Can we go back up to office admin
Yes.
salaries? So Tom, in you had indicated in the response to my things that we shouldn't do that based on highway salaries, and I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't making that tie-in
Yeah.
to highway salaries. So the question I have is, right now, the estimated salaries has the TA position in at 40 hours a week. The position originally was 32 hours a week. We increased it from 32 to 40 at some point in time. I don't remember when. So the real question for the board, and I think we should vote on this, is do you want the salary sheet to reflect 40 hours a week for the TA position, or 32 hours a week? Which is what we had originally advertised and budgeted the position for.
I would like to see it at 40. But I think I don't think we should be budgeting less without having had the full conversation about whether it should be 32 or 40. If we put it in as 40, then we can have that conversation, and we're free to go with 40 without blowing the budget. if we put it in at 32 and then decide to go to 40, we're coming up short.
I would argue that we always have surplus funds. And if we needed to, we could. There may, I'll just say this, I believe it's a 32-hour-a-week position. That's just me.
And I can't imagine it being less than 40. I
That's
don't know
probably because
if
you've never done it before.
well,
Sorry.
yeah, okay, that's fair. I came from two towns that are half the size of Johnson. And have full-time first selectman.
Yeah, what?
It's a different. The first selectman is essentially the town administrator. And both of those towns, both of those positions were full-time.
What did they
They're-
have for services?
What's your grand list?
Less than we have. For services, yeah, for sure.
They may have been half the size, but what was the revenue?
Well, I couldn't tell you that.
Okay.
And
It
what
all
was the
depends on the revenue.
expense, and was there, you know, somebody for community and economic development handling those grants, a lot of admin time? I don't know what the
You're-
situation was where you came from.
Well,
You're advocating 32, right?
I think it's a 24-hour-a-week position, because I did it at 24 hours, but I think 32 is a reasonable number to get the job done and have a little bit of extra. But that's just me.
so, but I guess my question is, when do we make that decision? And if it's not before the budget, then, you know, let's not assume that we're going one way or another. We haven't had that conversation.
I don't think you're looking for approval tonight. He's just starting the conversation.
Well, I'm looking,
And we're talking about budgeting. I mean, we're not gonna approve this budget tonight. Right?
we're not.
You want to meet a few more
The
times?
deal was 32, correct?
The original plan was 32.
Then leave it at 32.
But it really, you know, I think there's a fundamental question of what do you want the position to do? You know, if you want the position to do what I consider the basic functions of a town administrator, I think 32 is enough. If you want the position to do more than that, you know, community visioning, you know, all, what I consider to be higher end level of functioning for a town administrator, then 40 is probably needed. So it really comes down to, what do you want the position to do?
Do we have an overlap with the economic development?
Yes,
Is this the place to be having this discussion? I mean.
Well, we want to get it
We're,
ironed out for the budget,
we're budgeting right now,
Right,
not going into
so,
nitty gritty detail.
then leave it at 32.
And I'm in favor of calling it 40.
so,
It's up to Evan, he's the swing vote.
and
I'm the
Peter,
swinger.
when we bumped the town administrator position up to 40, we were dealing with flood issues and FEMA reporting and, you know, a pretty significant additional load. And, if I remember correctly, the decision was that that we would revisit that periodically with the belief that we would go back to 32 at some point. And some of that was gonna be based on Tom coming back to us and telling us how we thought that workload was going. But I guess the intent when we went to 40 was that it was not gonna be a permanent jump to 40 hours a week.
I understand.
It was intended to try and deal with an emergent situation that we didn't know about, for sure.
I'm gonna have to do some research. If you want me to be the swing vote? My gut says run it halfway in between. We're budgeted halfway in between and we could do a couple months of 40 and trim back then, but I don't know have the answer.
Well, we've got from now until June 30th to deal with the 40-hour week. So we're really talking about July
Touche.
1.
These whole timetables mess with me.
I know, yeah. It's easy to have happen.
Can I do a little bit of research and come back to the board? Leave it.
And we can leave it at 40 if people want to do that. And then, as you say, that gives us the luxury, if you will, of deciding what it is that we want.
I'm thinking of it as being conservative. You know, over budgeting maybe, but that's better than under budgeting.
Conservative
Right.
is 32, about 40.
Yeah, conservative is 32, and I part of the reason I raised the issue is I've already had a couple of people approach me in the community that says this was supposed to be a 32-hour week position. Why is it 40 all of a sudden? I don't have a good answer, and I'd like to.
Right. Leave it there for
Give my
now.
phone number.
Flag it
Yeah. Yeah.
and we'll
Well,
go from there.
price, aren't you?
I mean, when we did that in the meeting, it's 20 grand. That's what it is.
It's a penny on the tax rate.
0.85 cents.
Okay.
Um,
And Tom, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it's
Certainly on the
it's
spot.
it's a fiduciary responsibility I have as a select person. So
where
I
are
would
we?
also say the job is extremely different than it was 8 years ago. The responsibilities of the town have grown exorbitantly from the state level down. So although I think you have great experience, I think your experience is far different than the experience today. That's my opinion after having 10 years municipal experience myself.
Well, we're not looking for a soapbox. We want to try to get a budget taken care of tonight.
I heard.
Do your research of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to call and talk to people. I'm coming out of this with more homework than Tom. I don't know why I'm dealing with rec.
You said 32, you wouldn't have any homework at all?
No, you got homework, it'd be just different homework.
I'd have 50 phone calls when I got home. Okay. Next item. Did you get my note on insurances?
Yeah, so I have a note of my own that after we get through the budget, we had talked about this maybe in December. Or no, late November. And so as soon as this budget's over, I'm gonna reach out to VLCT. And talk about how to reduce the insurance and then prorate. Down,
Yep. Yep.
but that's going to be for another budget year, right?
I think if we make a change now, they prorate based on the rest of the year.
You think or you know?
I mean, I don't know that you don't. I know when I change my own personal car insurance or health insurance, or homeowners insurance, if you make a change, you get a check back. Like I just changed my farm insurance and I got a check for $150 because I don't have animals anymore. And I just took that out in October, changed it yesterday.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's like changing a deductible.
Exactly. And so if you prepay, you get a check back. If you don't prepay, you don't.
Duncan, your hand is twitching.
Oh, the pinched nerve in my neck.
You're talking about
It's
building.
involuntary.
You're talking about building insurances, which are under select board expenses, which is where we're going next. I'm talking about line 152.
152.
There's a note
that's-
on there in the copy that I sent to verify that a certain employee is accepting a certain plan and in the insurance sheet properly. So you can follow up on that. If you have any
Yeah.
questions about that line at all, let me know. I just want a verification.
Is
You
that
bet.
for, how many employees is 77,000 worth? 2?
That's
Considerably more than you think.
it's a lot of people.
Um, And my other question in that section is why would the unemployment expense drop? But we're talking peanuts here.
They give us the amount and it's divided up. There's like a calculation. They give us a piece of paper, you take it, you add it up.
Based on a rating.
Rating stuff.
Yeah, and then you just divide it between
Sweet.
office and highway.
See, I'm learning. All right, any other questions, general government expense? If there are none, we're gonna move on to select board expense. You had added expense for town report.
You think that's a good number, Rosemary?
Seems high.
Yeah,
Well-
why'd it go up so much?
Do we
We're
have
at
to,
the end, they do 2-year contracts and we're at the end of this year's contract.
we have
so-
to send a book to
So they're gonna
everybody?
kick us up.
I asked that one year
No.
and I got a reserving.
You don't have to.
No. The board at that time did not want to change.
It's the color picture on the front.
Yeah.
That doesn't make the difference.
Yeah, you just have to post a warning 30 days and then have it available.
That's to be in the paper. before we-
I mean, we could send out a link, you know, to an online copy. We don't have to send out. You know,
That
it's,
has to go in the warning, doesn't it? The
We're
board
not
can't sign it.
Obligated,
I
Duncan?
think all that's required is you have to notice it 30 days. And you have to have it available 10 days prior to
Mhm.
town meeting, and I think it has to be in the paper 14 days before. And then I think, but just available means, I think it's 5 places around town. I think that's what it says.
So,
And if you don't have the warrant, if you don't have it ready 10 days prior, then you have to mail it to everybody.
Mhm.
Is-
so where this all leads up to me is, can you make a note so that we can talk about it in June or July, or I want to say a slow month. I don't see a problem with sending out a mailing, which apparently costs $1,592 to say, if you want your town report, come down to the town office and pick it up
Pretty soon we're gonna have a new
and print
website.
a third of them.
We'll be able to send an email.
How many do we typically print, Rosemary?
900.
How many of those even get read?
Go to the post office when they get mailed out, check the garbage can.
If we do,
Well, it's probably full.
You
isn't
pick
it?
up a few over there, don't you? How many do you pick up in a year's time?
quite a few.
so we're having somewhere around 200 actually attend town meeting. What if we printed 250? Made them available at town meeting, so anybody that went to town meeting could have a physical copy in their hand and then sent out a link. I mean, I don't know how many different organizations now are no longer sending you printed copies of stuff. They say,
Yeah.
you know,
You actually, even the state, you don't have to send it to the state anymore. You upload it to the.
I have a stack going back to the 70s in my office.
then if you go to town meeting, you can get one.
Let's do it this way. Let's give it a try. If there's public outcry, we'll do something different.
When you say give it a try, you mean 250?
I think you should print more than that.
300.
I think we did 500 in Peachum and we always had about 200 left. So you probably need twice that, I mean, 500 to 600, because you have to have them in 5 places about town. So here, the library, you'll probably do the school we used to do. There was, we did Marty's in West Barn and Quick Stop and Hastings Store, but we'd, ask Maple Fields, you'd ask, you probably, if that general store opens up, you'd put it there.
Let's just move it along. How many do we need? 500? Let's just do 500. There's public outcry. We'll do something different next time.
But let's also have it on the website that here's. the
Yes,
link.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
Blah,
That
blah,
goes
blah.
without saying.
I think this requires a lot of communication. I wanted to talk about it next year. If the board wants to trim it, trim it. I'm just making my intent clear. For the record.
Well, this is a trim for next year.
Next year, because we've already got a signed contract for 900 copies for this year.
You already have a sign.
Yeah, we have to do a 2-year contract.
Okay.
So
Alright.
we're gonna have 900.
So maybe that
this
answers the
year.
question.
450.
Let's put a tickler on the calendar for,
Outlook reminder.
okay.
When are you
do
gonna
have to
sign that contract?
Rosemary?
Usually the fall.
Okay.
In the fall, so
Plenty of
if
time.
this is brought up at a board meeting in June or July,
December maybe?
that gives you. Pensioners still,
Yeah.
And if we have leftovers this year, can we use those again next year?
Yeah.
No,
so we're budgeting,
Why not?
we're budgeting the full amount, but we might sign the contract, so our actual.
Duggan, if you put a guitar right there, that would be probably interesting, you know that?
or some more you order, the less cost.
Hmm,
I'm gonna have to stand up for a minute.
Yeah,
oops, sorry, go.
They'll probably charge us just as much for the 450 as they would the 900.
ATV thing,
Plus
it's gonna be
tax.
2,000 people at town meeting.
I-
Well, Mark, don't worry, it's not gonna be in there.
You're not gonna do a petition? Oh, my
No.
God, signatures.
my next question, was
That's a bugger.
legal expense. What does the board want to do? I think we're covered at 18,000, but we do have union contract coming up. As well as. Aren't we doing legal review for contracts for the library and
Those are all part of the,
15,000.
yeah.
there's gonna be something that falls through the cracks.
This is the right page, right?
Is the board happy at 18,000 for legal expense?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can they fix it?
The pink up there,
You're gonna answer
stuff
that.
that you had questions about, but I didn't change.
What is he saying?
yeah, so I said, can you explain your thoughts on dropping consultant services from 12,000 to 5,000?
And
What
my
he's talking about.
question was, well,
Yeah.
Duncan asked the same thing. So the select board didn't plan any, what do you have planned that you're gonna need an outside consultant to pay for? That's not covered by an existing grant. That's usually grant funded. So this is like a conceptual idea, whether or not you want to do or not, you would reach out for consulting.
You know, we're not gonna merge, so we don't need attorney.
2023, we ran that one right up. 2024, we ran that one right up.
So what fell under that?
Yeah, I could have been some
Industrial?
industrial park stuff.
Yeah,
That was on.
which we might have more fall through the cracks there.
And I've taken all
It should-
monthly so far and put it in the special
Right,
account right now.
Yeah.
Could we put 6 in instead of 12?
I was gonna say 7,500, but I'll go for 6. Everybody okay with that?
I'll go for 6.
Anything left is fine with me.
I'm peaceful.
Next up, question that I had was Lister assistant. What line is
List of contracted
that?
services?
Lister contracted services.
So Justin's budget did not match our line, so I took his proposed budget that he gave you guys at the last meeting. And broke it into these categories. So it's everything, so that's the cost for the assistant, it's the cost for the flood documents, it's the cost for. Yeah, training plus flood doc, we got 1,500 and the lister, 5,000 is the lister assistant. Plus, the additional for mailings, and he thought there was gonna be significantly more for mailing. We could probably lower that, because it was 1,800 for the lister assistant. And I think it was 3,200 for mailing, but we did determine it's only gonna be 800.
Oh,
Didn't he say 1,600?
Yeah, but in his budget, he said, he told us 3,200 on Monday. So we could probably drop 5,000 with a combination of those.
yeah, he just barely told us what a mailing would cost, $1,600.
Yeah, so then plus the 18, so now we're looking at, we could drop that down to 3,400, I guess.
So all 3 of those items are under this one line item?
Yeah, the mailing and the lister assistant is what, and then any Terry Savings advice.
What was the
Uh,
number you said?
I think we could probably drop it down to 4,000. Based on his numbers on Monday, that's why it came up to 5, but we have no
Yeah.
information tonight.
and that's with the higher rate of pay for the lister assistant
the-
being carried.
This worst case scenario.
Okay, drop that down.
Was that like $25 an hour or 27?
We don't need to pay that we need to have the conversation about if we go out for another one, but I think it's smart to cover it.
We'll drop that to 4.
4,000. We're all copacetic there?
Sure. Sounds good.
What was my next one? General insurance, you answered the question on that earlier, Tom. Planning Commission contracted services, I'd rather see that at 500 than zeroed out. I don't think there's anything that they're doing.
Well, we are going to ask them, I think, to work
Go
on
with
the
capital.
capital plan.
But, I thought about that and we were talking about going for a municipal planning grant and I don't know.
I think we have to wait. Because our town plan wasn't done before January 1st, I think we have to wait a year.
We're out of cycle.
That's what I understood from Megan, but I. Did you guys hear that, or that was what?
I
heard.
didn't.
No, but it doesn't surprise me because normally the planning grant applications are due in the fall, so
Yeah,
we're probably out of the gate on that one.
I can follow up with that, but I think
that would make a good municipal planning grant application
it's the single most important thing we need,
because it's
planning.
a big lift. If we just ask the planning commission to come up with one. It's
And
not
have a
gonna
consultant
happen.
do it for, under grant funded consultant do it.
Yeah.
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 Next one I had was the EV charging station. There's like a note that says keep this line for payments to village. Since I got on the board, I've been saying we should unplug that thing, but I'm just saying it again.
I wish you would.
What's the note mean?
I see.
You have to pay for a telephone line out there.
Can we take the telephone line off it?
Don't think so.
I don't think it's working.
I think that's what the telephone line is. Cause it's supposed to dial out and give you readings,
The villages,
no? The town. It's a town charging station.
Did we get a grant for this?
Yeah.
Says,
Stipulations in the grant, Rosemary, that you
Mm,
recall?
there was no stipulation, I don't think at all. Was there? All I know it was a waste of
I
time.
bet there was.
We never should have fixed it when it flooded.
I don't think it got fixed. did it?
I just take.
That's really future thinking. I mean, they're
You use it to plug in.
No, it's an old style. It was a slow charger, Mark.
I mean.
I've
okay,
been
so
over this with you before.
You
I
wanna put it.
argued for a half-hour charger in the very beginning and spend a couple extra dollars, but the board didn't want to do it. So
Well,
we
they
got
wouldn't
stuck with
put
that old one.
They probably
Now we're
couldn't.
charging the
They had
village.
newer chargers, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that's actually hooked into a line from the light pole out there. If they had done a rapid charger, they would have had to go underground to the main panel inside here.
Whatever, it should have been, any way you look at it, we should have spent a few extra dollars and got something that was quicker. That was my argument. I thought it was a waste of time right from the start. Nobody uses it, do they? They didn't even use it before.
Eric uses
It's
it
been a
every
few-
single
Actually
day.
gets used a fair amount.
Now it's getting used every day.
Is it, I mean, I was told in the past that it was put here to hopefully get somebody coming into town. That was
Spending
maybe,
their money.
maybe driving from Burlington to St. Johnsbury. They could stop and plug it in, walk down and get at the time, I don't know if there was muffins, but spend their money in the town. Is it serving the purpose that it was purchased for?
There
That's
are
my question.
people plug in overnight, last night, I was here, I think I was the last one out, and there was somebody plugged into it. And if people plug into it during the day, now the town pays for the electricity for people to use it, they don't pay for it.
Well, actually, the town and village are both paying.
It's shared, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Cause
well,
it's off one meter.
my point is moot, thank you.
So they're all getting free charges.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Let's start charging for the charges. Enough to cover $500 a year.
Well, it originally was set up so that you could do a credit card.
That's what
Yeah, then you're gonna have to pay the credit card processing.
Yeah, I think the
Me too.
monthly fee of that was more expensive than the anticipated income, which is why, this is before my time, but I think that's why they didn't do it. The other thing is that credit card, that the part that reads the usage doesn't work. That broke in the flood. So it charges your car, but I don't know that it's tracking. I was getting emails, or when I first started, Carl said, hey, you're gonna get these emails once a month, and I haven't got a single one. So I think there's a break with the phone line, is what I was saying. There's something's not
yeah.
working. Yeah.
So can we get rid of it? Or does the village own half of it?
Village
doesn't-
doesn't own any
The
of it.
town owns it all.
Should we give it to the village?
The town got a grant to give it.
Let's give it to the village, because the village,
Uses it now. It's there.
Eric plugs his car in
Yeah.
all day long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Can we deed it over and stop paying for electricity and
Can we
$500
trade
a year?
for some land?
How would you meet? You'd have to get an independent
Put that in.
meter to read, you'd have to, like, I have one on my farm where we have like certain things, we paid for a special meter, so you know how much this uses. For like heating up tractors in the winter. We would have to get something like that to then charge the village, so the village paid that portion.
Don't they have an electric department that has all kinds of meters?
They only handle big electric, 20,000, I've had this conversation a lot, 24,000 volts and up.
2400 volts.
2400, yeah, they're
Yeah.
not gonna touch anything.
Well, the point is, I'm gonna agree with
I-
what Evan just said. That was
What?
the reason, that was the reason we got it. Because people were supposed to come through and charge their car up and go shopping in town. Okay,
So.
I saw Santa Claus parked there.
well, I argued with them that they're not gonna sit out there for 3 hours. There's nothing really to do here for 3 hours at the time.
So you wanna get
If
rid
it
of
was
it?
a half hour, I just soon get rid of it or give it to the village. Why should we subsidize the town manager?
Well, we can't really give it to the village without metering the electricity, because that wire that feeds that light pole out there is the same feed for the charging station, and it's on a single meter that the town and village are paying equally on.
Hmm,
Okay, well,
So the village is already contributing 50%.
they can contribute it all if they're gonna charge his car out.
can they contribute the $500 for the telephone line fee? We just move on,
If it's not working anymore, can we disconnect the
stop paying
service?
for it.
Stop paying for the service?
Um,
I don't know the answer to
Well, if it starts working again, don't fix it.
Yeah, it's working. It's a pain in the rear, but you can make it work.
you can get a charge.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can get a
but-
car
but-
charge.
that. But I think the telephone line is the piece that used to send out an email that says, here's what the usage was this month. And that piece, doesn't sound like that's
No,
working.
that's
No. And so, I mean, and it feels moot to fix it. Because if we're splitting the electricity for the building, we're both contributing to the meter, to know the usage only matters if it's gonna be one person paying.
Right.
And so. I think we just discontinue I think the solution is discontinue the credit card thing and just offer free electricity for charging the car. We've been doing it for how many years? Nobody's even noticed it, but at least stop the credit card processing telephone line.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you,
yeah,
so you will call and cancel that account and we can zero that $500 out.
Can you help me with that? Thanks.
Do you have a note for that?
how long has that not been working?
It's never worked. has it?
Since I got on the board,
Then we've been paying that money for nothing.
Well, I think the flood pretty much killed the phone line aspect of things, because up until that time, you were getting some emails that gave you like a readout, monthly readout.
I was told to look. Carl and I didn't spend a lot of time together, and one of the things he said was, here are the things you need to look for. One was emails for your car charger, and there aren't any since the flood. So my guess is that part probably died.
okay,
Well, there you go.
Move on.
yeah, I'm ready to move on.
Zero or
I believe the board said cancel the account, zero the expense out. My next question was on the 10 cents on the grand list payment. What data backs up 61,500?
What
Rate
line
is
is that?
shrinking.
For you, 185.
Thank you.
I did with the flood.
I mean,
That's
our grand list dropped, right? The village grand list is
So 10%.
Drop.
Well,
Shopping.
it's based on last year's, the 24 grand less.
Mhm.
So what we need to do is look at the village 24 grand less and be 10% of that. So that number might change.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's a data driven entry.
Yeah.
And I would be really impressed if it was perfect.
We wanted to, so
I want it to be what we're gonna spend.
Justin's report had the 24 grand list, so.
Does it have the village? Grand list,
No, but we pay 10% of the village only.
village,
Yes, 10% on the village grand list.
Yeah,
yeah, and that's right in where it used to be, right in the vault, the 411 used to be in there. You probably know what that number is, don't you, Rosemary?
right
Right
up
up,
the
get
top
it,
of your head.
Yes,
It very well may go up, but
I doubt if it will go up,
If anything, it would be.
go down, going down.
we need to budget what we're gonna spend. That is a number that we can depict perfectly. There's no need to guess.
Excuse me, Rosemary, is that lost and found here for like reading glasses?
We probably had one at one time.
Lost and found?
Mhm.
Yeah, probably. Got
I
lost.
think they get
found.
lost and lost.
during
in
the
fun.
flood.
Did it get
Yeah.
lost in the flood?
yeah, and then some guy comes along and takes them out of the lost and found, and they never got found again.
I was looking to steal some for you.
Yeah,
Barlow looked for them and couldn't
I
find
did.
any.
I'm kind of worthless tonight, but I'm sure these other people in the town would agree with that most of the time.
Some in my pocketbook.
In my office.
Great.
Stand.
That's
Next,
Maybe number twos.
You want some number twos?
Twos will work, I think.
I'm expecting anybody to speak up if they have questions. The next one that I think needs verification is the interest on loan payments.
Watch them look like cat's eyes or something.
I don't know if I agree with what's in there.
That tied out to the capital budget sheet, I
Yes.
think.
Yeah, it does.
What line is that, Evan?
Line
186.
186,
96.
So that,
186.
On 86,
so that
okay.
goes to L.
Are they cat's eyes?
They're my mother's reading glasses when we go to restaurants.
So that pulls to this number right
Thank
here.
I know what
You're
number,
on candid camera.
I know what number that pulls
Not
to.
that bad. They look
I
pretty
don't-
good.
I don't know if I agree
Actually,
with
look
what
at those babies.
is being carried for
Look at that.
interest on the 2025.
Dollar
international.
25? Wow.
She bought them 25 years
Because
ago.
you threw in a tandem 26 tab,
25 store.
Well, they work at a distance.
right? You threw in it, that's a manual entry, which it could be linked to
Thank
here,
you
whatever.
very much.
What basis was this based on? Every other piece of equipment has an amortization schedule, and the reason why I'm wondering what it was based on is because I don't know what interest was carried, because that's more in interest than we paid for the
Yeah.
grader, and we paid $50,000 more for the grader than this truck. And that was at 5%.
I just took, just. Pulled an amortization, a basic amortization schedule.
Like
that
an
was-
Excel.
Yeah, and based at 6% interest, and this is what it came out to be. I literally copy and
Is
paste.
that what we think the interest rate's gonna be?
I'm open to,
It's money in, money out. It's such a steep increase that I don't know.
I think it's way out of line, actually.
But if it's money in, money out, it doesn't matter.
It
Still
doesn't,
doesn't look good, though.
well, it doesn't matter to the end tax rate,
Right.
Is that?
but
is
do we or
that
do we
for
not
a
hold
future
the
purchase or
voters
Existing.
an accurate
purchase?
budget
yeah, this is based on the truck that we checked.
that we just motioned to
Just-
purchase?
just- Okay.
So I just took that amount.
The 6% that you carried makes
Might be a
sense to
little
me
bit tall.
it makes sense to me why that number is where it is. Because there's nothing written here, I don't know what interest was based on. That's why I was kind of
It's just based
asking.
on 6% because that's the commercial lending rate at the moment.
For munis,
Yeah, and so I pulled up, International gave us an offer through KS State Bank that had the percentage, that had the interest rate exact and the payment, I think it was 5.99. So I pulled 6 off of that. I asked Rosemary what she uses
Yeah,
all the
it
banks.
was, you know, around 5 something.
Our grader's around 5.
Yeah, then rates are going up.
Don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
So I could redo this.
It's probably not gonna make a huge difference.
But I can, so you want me to redo this with a different interest rate?
What would be nice? So click over a couple of sheets. If you showed the whole amortization schedule, somebody could at least follow it. Keep going. Just click on greater amortization. There you go. I can see. So if you scroll to the top, I can see. Keep going. Boom. 5% interest. That was our loan payment. This was the start. That would have completely negated my question. Whether we might get an 8% loan and bring in more money and spend more money. I just go.
I got, so
Seem high.
what action item do you want me to do?
Put the amortization schedule in there, so that way if we get a question at town meeting, we can say we based it off 6%, we're not blown yet.
All right, these aren't manipulatable, so I'll have to do another one, but yeah.
How did those get in there? Are those just printed?
They get inserted.
Yeah, they're like pictures.
Excel's gotta have an
That's an
amortization.
Excel.
It's an Excel spreadsheet,
Yeah.
but it gets, you create this, you
But if I
create
say
this.
change this to 6%, like,
It changed everything.
Then all the numbers change.
you know, I guess I used the last tandem number that didn't do it. Oh, see, that didn't, the balance didn't
The
change.
balance didn't change, but the interest did.
Yeah.
Regardless. At least we have some supporting document. For our best guess, we put our best foot forward and we're not going,
And
oh,
the other thing that this does is this breaks it down monthly. And we budget on an annual basis. So that was the reason why I pulled.
But you can deal with that by the number of payments.
Mhm.
So what I did is I made it similar to this little on the right here. This area, I just made, that's really what I needed for the budget, so that's why I made that match for the monthly payment. So I guess the question is, do you want the monthly amortization schedule, or are you okay with this just annual to build a budget?
if there's an amortization schedule that says, shows what the loan amount is, when it starts, what the interest rate is, I can figure it out, but. Everything else has a monthly, so I don't see the harm in it. Just to stay consistent.
So that one to the right, Tom, you're taking the total of the various sheets and manually inserting them in there, or are you doing a?
No, this is from this is. So I did an amortization schedule and just did this, copied it out and pasted it in. Because this one in the future, to me, budgets to me are best guesses. We have a difference of opinion, which is fine, and so I'm gonna do the monthly. But when I go through and I do this tandem, I go, okay, this year is 11,000, next year I'm gonna pump in 9,500. This is really all I need to update the highway capital reserve sheet. If you want the exploded monthly, we can do that, but it's never exactly right to what we get from the bank anyways. When really we're just doing this for best guess. That's why I did it this way, but I can explode it out.
You can do it that way. I told you I could figure it out. I just need to know what loan you're going for and what interest rate and what term. Otherwise, if somebody asked me, I would go, I don't know.
So
I'll try to backpedal it.
So on that sheet, you could just add
Sure.
6% interest over 60 months
6%
or
interest,
whatever.
we know it's 5 years, so it says that.
200 and
Yeah.
whatever thousand.
yeah.
210,000, something like that.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know why that works. I can tell you, I used it. I used to take the amortization sheets and break them up and manually add the interest and the principal, which is a real pain.
Well, so that's kind of what I did is I just broke it out and I think that now you do the on the side, I guess, right? You just like add up, if you look up in the column for the formula, you just kind of, okay, add them up for me and then plug them
Yeah.
in, but
Mr. Chairman, are we gonna stick to the agenda schedule?
I'm pumping as quick as I can.
Well, you're never gonna get this all done by 7:30 because it's 20 minutes to 8 right now. So I
Well,
don't wanna push this along, but the wind was howling at my house and it was snowing really good and I just don't want my driveway to get blown in, so I can't drive up the hill and I have to walk all the way to my house tonight.
if the board wants, we could finish this section and go from there. I can send remaining questions to Tom.
How many big ticket items have we got left? I mean, we don't have that many left. do we?
Not big
Paving.
ones. Paving's a big one. You have a note about updating the county tax after January 1.
yes,
So could you
absolutely.
get with them? Rosemary, I had a random question. I've never asked about this line.
Mhm.
The Lamoille County Independent Living Dues, which is gonna be 192. What is that?
Independent, what are you talking?
What
It's
line?
Lamoille, it's 192. Or what's
Lamoille County
Including
Industrial
in-
Development.
industrial development dues? Okay.
See,
What do you call it?
Independent living. I see, like, I saw it weird. Okay, thank you. Big
That's the
thing,
first mistake I think I've heard him make, isn't it?
write it down.
Right, I'm gonna.
There'll be plenty more. Other big ticket items are gonna be in highway. I can work with Tom on the small ones if you want. If the board is okay with that.
I think we're good with select their sense.
Are you okay with that? Tom? The two of you okay? On the little one? I'm peaceful with that, Evan.
All right, I did change some expense in other things, but nothing was huge. All right, recommended expense changes.
Yeah, you did. You did kind of pick on Historical Society at that.
Did I?
Yeah, I thought you did.
What number?
And the library. I didn't.
Tom
change-
didn't change anything.
Oh, you didn't change
Yeah.
those? Okay.
I don't think this is a moral thing. I think it's too late. These committees came to us 2 months ago with these budgets. And it feels really immoral to pick on, last minute to say, hey, drop this. Where we should have done that in November, we had it the whole time. And so it just feels like, they did the work way early and we're coming at them kind of late.
I am of the opinion that this is the select board's budget. And going to a committee and asking if they could work on certain lines is not immoral to me. It's something I view as a responsibility, but the board can just keep them all there if they want.
I think that we really, I tried to get us to pick a target for our budget so that we could have said to the committees, don't bring us a budget that's more than X percent higher. And I mean, I think it's kind of what you're saying. I think that's what we should have done. And to now go in and cherry pick some of those items and say you're gonna have to take a hit on those. I have the same concern.
I agree with Duncan.
For clarity, Duncan did say that I picked on Historic Society a lot, and anybody that's watching, any of my recommended expense lowerings never went below your previous expense on those lines. Except for the building fund.
What do you want to see it at, Duncan?
I don't know, because I don't have Evan's sheet in front of me. And
Oh,
you
it doesn't matter.
you didn't change
I
He didn't-
highlighted
those
them,
items, or
so
you
they're right.
highlighted them?
but I, like, so here's historical, there's 4. I highlighted them, but I didn't change them to Evan's suggestion.
Yeah, he didn't change anything
I,
on committee side.
they're all, it all adds up total to probably $3,000 between all the committees. It's not a big change, and it
not
might be seen as disrespectful or, you know.
So that, when you look at the right-hand column, you've got $6,181,
Yeah,
$180.61. That, if you change those to AN instead of AL, then that's the net contribution of the town to the Historical Society,
We will,
based on the budget.
we will forever disagree on this.
Yes.
Because I believe that there's expenses for the building that are a net cost to the taxpayers.
I agree. But in terms of strictly budget,
In terms of the way the budget was formed, it conveniently is not very much, yes.
yes. In what the Historical Society used to get was a simple $3,000 contribution from, before there was a building. They used to get a $3,000 contribution from the town.
It's about $17,000 cheaper than it is now. With the building.
But if you did the changes that you are proposing, it would drop that number to about $1,200, I believe.
Yeah. No, 1,200.
So that number on the right-hand side, the 2855, that's the net between the revenue.
61.
Yeah, but that's because it's the wrong columns. It's looking at AM instead of AL. So Tom just fixed that, and that's the net between revenue and stuff.
Can we deal with just the big ones?
Okay.
And we'll have to talk about this again later.
So the bottom line is we're not gonna touch the historical society.
Right.
Duncan and Tom are both saying don't touch any committee, although I said touch rec when we started out. And I think we all agreed on that.
Yes.
Do
Except
you,
for me.
you agree not to touch any other committees?
I agree.
Why do we even
I do.
call this, this isn't a select board budget, we have say over one section?
Well, I'm in
Maybe.
favor of cutting paving. Come on.
Paving, Tom already has homework, right? Clear direction, show money in from the 2 sources, show the expense, 2 sources. I do believe our contribution to the paving reserve fund should be at 110. We can always cut that last minute if we need to.
But we need to clear the air, though. I do agree with what Duncan said, that we have plenty of time to get with all the various committees and tell them ahead of time. Okay? And so I agree with what he said.
It's fine. Contribution to paving, you bump that up to 110.
I'd really like to see that at 110.
I put it right there. Like, let's do the worst case, you know, and we can always come back and cut, but it's better to be worse now.
The other 2, couple of large ones, were capital equipment. Again, it's money in, money out. I think originally we were gonna be buying a welder, and I don't see that in your calculations, Tom, but it's just money in, money out.
That would show in here.
Yeah, it's right there. You go down. It lines up with the same year that the truck lines up for. But the truck's in your expense up above, right? Go up above and to the left. See the 42,000 for the truck is there.
There needs to be a line for the welder.
That red is really not good on that projector. It's fine and like. I'm having trouble reading the numbers and that you don't have to change it, Tom.
I don't like red anyway.
So can you just work on that and get back to us if we're trying to get Mike home at a decent hour? Is there anything?
No, but not necessarily just that, Evan, but we do have a
Couple of,
agenda in our hand.
Yep.
And it was to 7:30. At 7:30, we're supposed to be talking about the town meeting warning,
Mhm.
and it is 10 minutes late.
Yep,
So we are 20 minutes behind, and I know how you're a stickler to try to keep on time.
I appreciate it.
So I'm just trying to remind you of your previous comments in the meeting.
You are. Does anybody have any questions about the warning? Any other big budget stuff? The board's gonna have to email out and we'll talk about it. Next meeting.
I think it looks pretty good.
It's big.
Mhm.
Now, what are we gonna do about the legislators?
You think so?
Mike, I think we should let him speak.
I think we should let them speak, but we should ask them to show up at noon.
That we might be able. to do.
Okay,
Okay.
Give
that's
him
fine
some
with me.
food,
Do you feel comfortable
Yeah, I can
communicating with
ask-
them and
I'll
asking if they could
communicate
show
with
up at
them.
noon?
if they could come at noon, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Just,
Is the board comfortable with Mark
This
making
per-
that
yeah.
call?
this particular year, when we're asking them to find us a buck more money from pilot. Would be best not to be, rude to them, Michael.
I'm not saying to be rude to them. I'm not telling you that I don't really want them there. I just want to make sure that they don't interrupt the meeting when we're discussing something because it changes the whole dynamics during the discussion.
Okay,
It
if
does,
you were to witness what you said at our last meeting, it may have been a little more curt than what you just said.
Possibly, but I've mollified my position.
Okay. No,
Um,
Mike has mollified his position.
Because we have so many articles,
I think the term was running their mouths and stuff.
is there,
Well, they
a-
do run their mouth.
I have a question for the board here.
Mhm.
Is there a way we could handle Article 12 outside of town meeting? I was a proponent to have it at town meeting. I still am, I just view. Um, we're looking at 15 articles here. Is there a way we could get advice from the public by having a couple of public sections in our select board meeting? Although I feel like we're gonna get more input at town meeting.
We're
We'll
gonna
get more
article,
at town meeting.
yeah, 12 and 13 are gonna be the longest part of town. Everything else should go really fast.
Could we combine Articles 13 and 14?
I didn't know how to do that because it's a separate, there wasn't clear direction on how to form an advisory budget committee. And I'm assuming the voters do it, but the voters are also supposed to elect. And so
But so I guess
I don't know how to do that, I guess, is my question.
well, hear me out. At the very end of the last sentence. Where it says the committee shall be composed of 5 residents of the town of Johnson. Could we just do comma appointed by the select board?
Yes, that sounds fine.
To be appointed by the select
I'm
board.
Yeah,
just
to
gonna
be
say the
appointed.
same thing, Duncan.
Perfect.
Thank you for saying it first.
Because all of the rest of that is still consistent with 17 VSA 2646, right?
Thomas, you made the statement that you thought we were gonna fly through these up until there. There may be some discussion around Article 7 and 8.
Oh, the town clerk.
Yeah, I think there will be.
And I think we need to present it in a way, explain to voters what our thinking is.
I think we need to have Rosemary stand up and say, I think this is a good idea, and then it'll fly.
I think so too. We'll give her the mic and
Sorry, Rosemary.
and
Look out for that.
You're gonna.
Yeah.
That would be really.
You've already said you thought it was a good idea, so just tell everybody and now it'll be a no-brainer.
Do you think it makes any difference whether we do clerk first or treasurer first?
None.
I think it's better to do clerk first
think
because
so?
that greases the wheels for treasurer, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I think it's more important to have the treasurer
I
appointed than the
understand,
clerk, but.
Right.
Getting back to number 12, Eben, I think the whole thing is an exercise in futility. Even if we get the go ahead. I think it's gonna be very difficult to negotiate any kind of a deal with the trustees.
I
It's,
think,
it's gonna be advantageous to us. Because both boards want to be advantageous to themselves. See what I mean?
Mhm.
but this is just asking to investigate. And I think that people will support the idea of investigate and pursue, but you know,
True. We don't have to do it.
we don't have to do it. Maybe we should take out pursue. And that would just make it, we're gonna investigate.
Could we take out the entire article and just have one of us stand up and say the board is thinking about negotiating with the trustees over ownership of the various properties, and
How do you get
how
the,
do you feel about that? Should we do it or should we not do it?
Under other businesses.
Under other business?
Transact such other businesses, maybe.
Listen,
I'm not adverse to that, Duncan. I think this gives us a more of a pulse of what people are thinking. It, under other business, you're gonna get the people who are really confident to respond. But I think having it at town meeting is better than doing, oh, come to the select board meeting next week. We're gonna talk about this. I think you'll get the usual 4 characters and.
having a definitive vote does give, like, kind of covers your back. You know, no matter what you do, you can say, well, we're just following directives.
What do you think about taking out pursue?
Leave it.
You wanna leave it? Okay. Duncan, leave it? Pursue actually gives us permission.
This is
To-
advisory anyways. We have permission to pursue it already. We just don't know if it's a waste of time.
Good point.
I don't think it hurts to remove it. I mean, I think the basic idea really is, and this is gonna take some explanation on our part, of what it is that we intend to do.
Yeah, somebody better be really prepared for
And,
that.
and
getting
it's gonna
questions
have to
already
come
on
to gonna have to come to another vote. If we decide anyways,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
so that needs to be made clear. If we investigate and pursue and make a decision, it's gonna come back to you to vote. That makes it all a lot, more, that to me makes it something that's gonna pass.
And one reason to have it in there as opposed to do it under other business is it's in the warning, so people
Exactly.
know it's gonna be discussed.
I like leaving it, leave it in.
When you get to
Okay.
other business, half the people have already gone.
A
Right.
lot of people
Yeah.
stand up and leave,
They're
Yeah.
gone.
and then we're gonna condemn some country for trading oil or whatever.
We don't have Bert Thompson anymore.
Is there a benefit to making the question include prior to a townwide vote? Like
Oh,
investigate,
no.
pursue? No.
They know that anyway. The village is probably gonna do something similar, correct? You know,
I know they want to get rid of 180 acres. probably.
so that's the big deal. If we're still talking about, we still talking about 12,
Yeah.
or we're gonna move on?
Still talking about it.
Okay.
Are there any questions on any of the other articles?
Can I just say that I could be wrong about this, but I think it's 185 acres.
Well, you
Because-
got 180 plus or minus.
I mean, how about you highlight that in red, Tom? Just put like
Yeah, and
verify.
part of the reason I say that is because the original subdivision was 50 acres and it was 200 acres. And I'm pretty sure the deeds refer to 185 acres, but not a big deal one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think
People know.
You can put a 5 in there and just leave plus or minus. Plus or minus covers a
Well,
lot of
and then
territory.
I gotta figure out how much we're gonna keep for our material storage and lower storage.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a totally different question. We don't even, if the voters say you guys are nuts to even think about this, Then we don't have to worry about it.
It's a quick conversation at that point.
Yeah.
If there are no other questions about articles, I was gonna move on to item A, which was an addition by Tom for lunch for election workers.
Just a second.
Yep.
Yeah, I wanna go back to the warning. I had somebody on a committee say to me that it would be nice if there was some place in town meeting where committees could stand up and give a plug for their committee. Not really going into detail about question and answers or whatever, but you know, I'm Joe Small on such and such a committee, and we're a couple of members short. And if you're interested in joining, we certainly would like 2 more members. You know, just one quick plug while everybody's here, while everybody's at town meeting. Not at the tail end of it when everybody's gone, but you know, somewhere where the majority of the townspeople are there.
Like right before the legislators speak.
Yeah,
At lunchtime.
yeah, right before the legislators speak.
That's a good idea, Mike. I like that.
Yeah,
Why couldn't it be in where you hear and
The
accept
reports,
the reports?
yeah, I was
'Cause
thinking,
almost
I was
committees
thinking
have
Article 3.
reports.
Well, whatever it's put, as long as there's people there to hear it, I could care less where it is. But when they said it to me, I said, that's a good idea. And I said, I'd bring it up to the board tonight.
So should we add something there that specifically says to hear from committee
Put
chairs
plugs?
or something? Or is it inherent? I mean, to review the reports of the town officers.
And others included in the town report.
Yeah.
Most committees have reports in the town report.
You want me to say town officers, committees and others?
Others is vague enough. I mean, I think there's reports from NEMS in the town report,
Mhm.
isn't there?
Mhm.
That's not a committee, it's
Sheriff's
others.
Department, yeah.
We're gonna break it noon. I'm getting a hold of our representatives and saying, please plan to attend select board meeting at noon in Johnson.
Town
Will
meeting,
that include Richard Bailey too, or?
It's up to them to include Richard Bailey. I don't have Richard's.
I can
will-
contact
I
Richard.
will ask him. Richard's lost right now, so. But he'll come.
okay,
Be lost.
He just started.
This is his second day of the
Yeah.
legislature. He doesn't know which end is up.
Well, the
Um,
legislature doesn't know that.
are we ready to talk about
It's not
lunch
big
for
deal.
election
Weston's
workers?
been there for 50 years.
What was that request for, Tom?
Thank you, board, for giving me a hearing on that.
good idea.
Susan asked me about election workers, I guess, typically during town meeting, during lunch, when lunch is. When lunch is served is when the most people come to vote, so election workers often like don't eat, it's like kind of a. And so the special request is, if does anyone know if there's going to be pizza this year?
Yeah,
Would,
I'll make sure we have pizza. And last year I made sure pizzas got delivered to them, so I don't,
I'm only repeating. you know.
okay, tell her we'll make sure there's, how many pizzas would she like?
She said 2, 1 cheese, and 1 special pepper, and peppers, onions, and mustard.
Is that, there's no funding request, it's just making sure they're,
Yeah,
okay,
it's like, and then the other thing is daycare. That was a question. Who operates that? Is that a town?
Kyle's been taking lead on it.
yeah, Kyle, I mean, we need to talk about the town meeting plan
That's
as a whole.
Yep.
At last year, we didn't have the Boy Scouts
No,
to
I
the
think we-
Pledge of Allegiance or
did we
anything.
try to contact them? I don't know if we ever got hold of them.
So
already.
there's more questions than just daycare, but can you reach out to Kyle and see if she's willing to arrange for daycare of town meeting? I guess that is a longer lead item, I think.
Who was the violin player that played Star Spangled Banner years ago?
Oh, Gary Clark and his son.
Yeah,
Oops.
Gary Clark and his son.
You
I wish they
know,
could do that again.
I'm thinking back now. Committees are asking for a place for a plug. Why don't they set up a booth and ask for donations? At town meeting day, they have a chance to shake hands.
They could do that.
Kiss babies.
Some committees set up a booth.
Yep. In the back.
But it still gives them a chance to go up front. And,
Yep.
say a couple of words about themselves.
Yep. Next item up. Future select special board meeting for the budget. When does this have to be signed by, Rosemary?
27.
That's the day it has to go to,
25 is what we're
Yeah.
telling people, the Friday.
it takes 2 minutes to get it all put together.
I think we should meet next week. We got through about half of it. What do you guys think?
How about Saturday afternoon?
We could do 6.
This coming Saturday at 6 o'clock.
I don't know if that would be
Or-
wildly popular.
Or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday.
Are there any conflicts on like the
2 o'clock. on
15th?
Saturday?
Yeah. They going out and you didn't like that.
I have a conflict on the 15th,
Do you have a conflict on the 14th? Do
and also on the 14th.
you have a conflict on the 16th? Which is 1 week from today.
Getting an oil change in my car in the 16th.
Do you have a conflict on the 16th, Tom?
16th is tough for me, just because that's the day before, the last night I have with my kids where they leave. every week.
Yeah.
Did we look at Monday?
Trustees. meeting
Monday is a
today.
trustee meeting. We could meet down here like this again.
Is it helpful to have that up there?
Yeah, it'd be nice if the projector was flat.
Put it- Stand, I guess.
And then are we gonna have a regular select board meeting?
On the 20th.
20th?
Yeah. Does Monday work for everybody? There's no issue with meeting
This
down here, other
coming-
than Rosemary will be going to the trustee meeting. So if we have a couple of ancillary questions, is that a big deal? No. Is that a big deal for the board?
No.
As long as 2 other people besides Evan come, I'll show up when you get done with the budget. Get towards the end. That would be my.
It's gonna be budget only, I guess budget and warning. Is Monday
Send
better for
me a
you,
text when I'm,
better for you, Tom?
What's that?
Send you a
Monday's
text
better
with
for
your
you.
signature
Monday would
meeting.
be.
When you get out
much
of the weeds.
appreciated. Yeah.
Monday, the 13th.
Monday, the 13th. We'd be down here again.
6 o'clock?
Sure.
We should,
you keep throwing my.
famous last words, we should be able to wrap it up pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. It's coming along.
What's our percentage now?
As the most recent, with the changes made today. dun-dun-dun, I think it's at just over 4.
But that includes the 176 and the amount to be reduced by taxes, right?
Right. We haven't like reserved out
yeah,
anything. You went
you-
way past that.
That-
Oh, but it's linked to down below. You're right.
Oh,
But that just changes, so
Where you at?
we take, so what I do is you see there's 40.
Yeah, just throw another 20 at tax anticipation.
so
It'll
there's-
subtract it out.
Here's our amount to be reduced by taxes. So
No, that's cash on hand.
so what do you want to say that, what you want to do?
It doesn't matter. We don't need to go down this road again.
Well, I mean, I'm just asking like, what do you want me to put in the box?
I was just saying, throw another 20,000 at tax anticipation, so it'd reduce that box by 20,000 fictitiously.
Perfect.
We haven't even talked about any of these, so they're gonna
I
move.
wanna see what the impact on the tax rate is.
So as is, right, it's 4.06,
That's with 176 going in.
and if we make this 40,000. Which would put us over 10%, actually, we have to be careful about that, because we're at 320 right now, no, it doesn't. It would bring us just over 10%, so, but just say we do that. To 40, 50, and 20 is 70,000. So 226, 226, 765.
You don't just have that making up the difference.
No, I don't know how to do that.
Hit equals, hit the amount and just subtract out the other ones.
I'm waiting in suspense.
I know, right?
I know, I
For
mean,
the tax impact number.
Yeah.
Click on the 246, or yeah, there you go, subtract.
Sorry.
Enter,
That sucks.
done.
so 156,
Very long.
that puts us 4.97.
Under 5, just.
We're right around 5, Mike, tonight.
Yep.
Next items up are executive sessions. I would entertain a motion to enter executive session.
So move, Mr. Chairman, under 1 VSA 313H3.
Recording stopped.
The board has entered executive session at 8:09. We have 3